Excellent. Okay,
We
let's
know
get started.
we're the only thing between you and the bar. But the good news is the bar doesn't open until we're done. So
We'll keep it nice and quick. So then we can have a bit of question time and then a little bit of discussion if anyone's up for it, and then we can all head down to the marketplace and have a good time.
Because there's no other bars in Australia that you can find that are open right now. None, trust me. So you're stuck with us until the marketplace opens.
Okay, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about how to get involved in the OpenStack community, and we're going to look into a deep dive in both technical and non-technical, and then I'll chat to Lisa and we'll ask her about like what she's done in the community on the non-technical side, and then we'll just have a bit of time for Q&A.
I love that slide. I'm a success story.
So then if
so exciting.
Anyone here completely new to OpenStack? Yeah, one? Okay, great. Couple? So this is a great way to learn how to become a contributor to OpenStack. So on the technical side, if you want to learn how to upload documentation, contribute code, the Upstream Institute is a fantastic way to learn that. So they run before the summit. It's always that weekend, the Saturday, the Sunday. They have sessions and it's a deep dive into the technology. And then there's also some that run on the back of OpenStack Days. There was one that recently ran at the back of the OpenStack Days in UK. But if you can't make it to the summit, you can't make it to the OpenStack Days, not a problem. We do have that link there. That's where you can find the documentation in order to go through it yourself and run through the tutorials. And so that's an example of a contributor guide, and it walks you through all the steps. Unfortunately, I can't run with it through you today. It's just so much content, but it does give you all the key ideas of the things you need to have, such as an OpenStack Foundation account, a bug tracker account, a Gerrit account, and individual contributor license agreement. So now once you've skilled up, you've done all the training, you know what you're doing, it's time to upload that code. You've got to think about which topic area you might want to contribute to or have the expertise in, so whether it's compute, data and analytics, deployment tools or application services. So you'll pick one of those and then you'll see which project you'd want to contribute to. And each project covers a different type of technology on OpenStack. So Cinder is to do with block storage, Swift is object storage, and you pick one of those and then it will lead you to a tutorial in which you can find documentation in order to contribute at that link just there.
And there's many more, it's not just those.
Yeah, that was just a sample of potential projects. Yeah, there's so many more. And so if you don't know how to code, that's not a problem. There's plenty of ways for you to contribute in terms of content. So if you have an experience with user experience design, we'd love to have you on board. There's a group dedicated to that involved with OpenStack. If you see anything on the website that could be better done, or there's a link broken, or there's something that you've noticed that isn't quite right, you can message us and let us know, or you can peel through and think, oh, that could have some better wording, you could let us know. Super user, has anyone heard of super user?
You all saw the keynotes this morning, right?
Yeah? Yep, Super User, the amazing blog that is run by some awesome folks at the foundation. They run user stories and all sorts of different topics, so if you want to contribute to that and you have an idea, feel free to pitch it to us. Anyone speak multiple languages other than English? Excellent. So you can help with our translation and documentation. So we're always looking for new languages and communities for which we can have stuff translated into their locale. So if you're able to contribute and come forward, we'd love to have you on board. And lastly, if you have your own idea, you have that light bulb moment in the way you can make your mark in the OpenStack community. We're always open for ideas, so we'd love to have you on board in that sense as well.
I saw you shake your head, but I've heard you speak at least 3 different versions of English, so I think you can raise your hand.
So in terms of being present at events and meeting people, these are the certain ways you can get involved. So your local user group. We have user groups all over the world, and even if it turns out there isn't one near you, you can get involved and start one. We have a lot of guides and we're happy to give you a lot of help and love in making that happen if you want to bring one to your local community. And there's an example of a meetup page. There's all sorts of discussions that happen and like mini events where they might have a speaker who's talking about a particular topic such as Collar, which is an OpenStack project, or it might be simple as let's just catch up, talk about what we're doing. So it varies in the formality, but it's a great way to meet your fellow stackers. So we also have the ambassador program. This is one of our amazing ambassadors, Lisa, and they are there in your communities to chat to if you need help starting something, so they'll give you love and help in terms of if you want to start that user group or you're running a user group and you need help with that, these are the people to talk to, and they're also our main communication channel between our local regions. We have ambassadors all over the world, and you can find your local ambassador there. Well, I'll go back one. And by chatting to them, if you've got some feedback to pass on, they're also a great way to get that back to us for your local region. And also, if you're already doing great things in the community or know someone who is, you might want to recommend them to become an ambassador, because we're always looking for new people to take on that role and be a great representative of OpenStack. So next one is events. Obviously, you've ticked that box there. You're here in an event, so that's the first box ticked. There are a number of others that run throughout the years. So the first one is the PTG. This is to do with like working sessions to plan and coordinate the next release of OpenStack. This is very much technical oriented and have a lot of working sessions. We have OpenStack Days. They're annual regional events with community leaders, local ecosystems and users, and come together. It's kind of like a mini version, one day of the summit, but it's very localised. A lot of local users, local companies who are involved.
They have one here in Australia. Jess runs it from Aptera, and I heard it was very successful.
It was, and there was one near you.
Oh, we have lots in the United States. We didn't do as many this year, but because we did OpenDev, which I think you're about to talk about.
So OpenDev is a cross-community event, and it talks about certain different topics in composable open infrastructure and modern applications. So this year was all about edge computing. Do you want to, you were at OpenDev?
I was at OpenDev. It was a really amazing conference, and we had, we had a good combination of operators and devs, and so we had the community coming together, a lot of conversation. We kept it very technical and very much a working session, which is always what we want from these. So it was like a mini operator summit in some ways, but it spanned a lot of edge technology, or edge computing was the topic, and so it actually brought a lot of people from the community, and people flew in for it. We picked San Francisco because we have a nice hub of developers there, but we had kind of like who's who of the community fly in from different parts of the United States, which was really nice. There was about 200 people there, which is, for the Bay Area, we can have 200 people in a meetup, but this was very specific, and we had the content very specific, and we met for 2 days, and it was all day for both those days, and it was a fantastic conference. So I hope we do it again, and they will probably be twice as big next year.
Of course. So then, moving on, if you're interested in student engagement initiatives, so we've got one coming around called OpenStack Comes to Campus. So this is a specialised flyer for the University of Melbourne. But this is involved in getting students aware of open source technologies, OpenStack and so forth, and being able to build mentor relationships with those who are in the community. So we had a panel of speakers, and then once we have that formal chat, they're able to network, exchange business cards and so forth, and be able to just give them an awareness of technology that may not be taught at university.
Oh my gosh.
And now we're on to you.
Okay, you talked really fast. Are you going to talk about the forums? I think there's a couple of other things we want to bring your attention to.
There's a number of things, yeah. I'll let you cover that.
Sure. Sonia mentioned the PTG. So this was for those of you that this isn't your first OpenStack Summit, or even second, there used to be, the Design Summit used to be part of the OpenStack Summit, and then that started getting a little bit complicated. They split that out, and that's where the idea of the PTG, which is a little bit off-cycle, would happen when a lot of those projects mid-cycles were happening. They're like, why don't we just do those PTGs? And we had the first one in Atlanta in February, and the last one was just in Denver a couple weeks ago, or a month or two ago. And so that's what that is. That's the Design Summit decoupled from the OpenStack Summit. And that way, the folks that were part of the Design Summit get to actually participate in the OpenStack Summit. I see John in the back row. I'd never seen John in any of my presentations because he was always part of the Swift Design Summit. And it took all of his time, and I'm sure that applies to others of you in the room. So good to have you, John. You don't have to sit in the back row. I can embarrass you from any part of the room, don't worry. So that's the PTG. A couple of other things. The forums that are happening here at the conference. That's another thing that they did, I think, for the first time in Boston. And it was really successful, getting the community together and talking with each other. And there's, I believe, an Etherpad where you can submit your ideas ahead of time. And it's another great way to be part of the community. Sonia also mentioned a bunch of ways to be part of the community with contributing code, but there's also a lot of ways to be part of the community with not necessarily technical contributions. We just started on oh, I'm not wearing my badge. Is this my badge? This is your badge. You'll probably see something on the badges that started, I think maybe Barcelona was the first summit, where we have an AUC, the user group contributors. And that's recognized on the badges, and you'll see that on a bunch of the badges. And when I find mine, I can show you. And that was a way to give some of the, because there already was an ATC, right, the technical committees, and that was a way to give the user groups a little bit more love, and a lot of the people who are contributing so much time and so much effort to keeping these user groups going, some recognition. So we have that too. If you want to run a user group or be an ambassador, we are always looking for more people. I want to give Sonia a huge shout out. Tom and Sonia have been running this program. Tom Fifield is there, and I told you, I can embarrass probably everybody in this room, and I will get to you all one at a time. No, I'm kidding. They run a fantastic program. Sonia has been doing this for about a year now, right?
Yeah.
I think we met about a year ago. And she's running it here from Australia, if you couldn't tell from her accent. She's local. And this is a great program, and it's a way to try to help kind of localize some of these activities. And we run a great user group out of San Francisco, but that's where OpenStack started in some, well, in all concepts, and it's not just a San Francisco thing anymore, not even close. It's absolutely a global thing. There's contributors from all over the world. We don't even have remotely the most contributors from our area anymore. So how do we then get all of this content? We still have probably the most presenters and largest user groups and things like that because of the inertia that started. But how do we share that content around the world? How do we make that scale? How do we help the other areas build their communities and keep them rolling? And that's with local people that help, and a program that Sonia and Tom have been running here. And they do a great job. So we are always looking for more people. If you don't have a user group in your area, please come and see us. We'll help you with content. We'll help you figure out how to get one started. We can teach you all kinds of things, even like how to pass the hat around and get funding, how to get corporate funding, because these things don't pay for themselves. And then if you do want to be an ambassador, we are also looking for good people there, particularly people who have run user groups before and who have some kind of understanding of what that takes and how to organize that and know what burnout feels like and have forged through it. So you'll have the energy to do it. So we need your help there. But okay, but what did you really want me to talk about?
Just basically how you got started, how you got involved. Any resources you recommend?
Sure.
Things like that. Your key highlight as well. Let's finish on the highlight.
Oh, shoot, I have a whole resources slide from my last talk that I can send you to when you put your slides up somewhere. But there's a lot of resources. The foundation actually they have on OpenStack.org, they have a marketing resource page that gives user groups and communities a lot of great content and help. So there are resources you can find on OpenStack.org. But how I got started, wow. It was so long ago. OpenStack's 7 years old. How could it be that long ago? But I've been running the San Francisco Bay Area community for over 4 years. Been involved in it for almost all 7 of them. I was at Hewlett-Packard at the time, and I was involved in OpenStack, and I just kind of started helping, and then next thing I know, I was running it because that's how these things work. And we have 4 people that help in our area, but really kind of 2 of us that do all of it. But if you happen to work for a company and you have resources like in my case, I had a facility that I could host the meetup at, and we try to do 2 meetups a month, and we try to move it around, San Francisco, San Jose, different areas, because it's a large area, the Bay Area, and there's a lot of traffic, so people can't always move around very easily. So we move the meetup around. But if you work for a company and they have resources and you can help, this is huge. I mean, this is how open source is sustainable, because we do get contributions not only of people's time, but we also get those very coveted dollars from corporations, and a lot of it is just the space to run a meetup and the funds for the beer and pizza. Or I'll have someone who wants to present and even has funds, but they don't have a venue, or the other way around. They have a venue, but if someone else wants to come in and speak and buy the beer and pizza, so things like that. If you have a logistics team, an events team, if your company believes in open source, then you can usually make the case that this would be a really good thing for us to do to host these meetups in our facilities. And I was really lucky that HP has a long history in open source, and they weren't a company that was like, well, okay, you can host the meetup, but you always have to have an HP speaker. I mean, I almost never had an HP speaker, or if I did, it's because they were an OpenStack PTL, and that's what they worked on upstream all the time. So those are the kind of important things, having your company understand why participating in open source is really important, and then also, of course, if you are participating in open source, what that means, and being a really good community person, and not just doing sales pitches and vendor pitches and things like that. So there's a balance with all of those things. The ambassador program. I guess I was approached a couple of years ago. We've had different ambassadors around the US, and we used to just have one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. But as OpenStack has grown a lot, I think I published a couple books on OpenStack, and so I think Sean came up to me at one point and was like, you did that thing and it was community and it had nothing to do with your job, and I think you'd be really good for this. And he was stepping down at the same time that the East Coast guys stepped down. So for a while we had one person for the entire North America, and so we've been really busy for the last year recruiting. I'm super happy to say that we now have 4 ambassadors, I believe, for North America, 3 in the US, and we just brought in 1 for Canada, and we're growing the program all the time. In my opinion, if someone's a good person and they want to help, I mean, you can't have enough people. And this OpenStack is growing so much, and we'll take all the help we can get. So, but it's a fun program. We have a session on Wednesday where the ambassadors are going to talk a lot more about the program, and you can meet ambassadors from all over the world that are leading that session, and we can answer many more questions about the ambassador program if you're curious about it or want to get involved and want to know more about what we can do.
Cool. So final remark, what is the biggest highlight of being part of this community?
Part of the OpenStack community?
Yeah.
Oh, the people. I mean, initially, it was just, it was such cool technology, and it was the fastest growing open source project, and we were all like, oh, let's work on the new thing, and we were all super jazzed about it. And after 7 years later, some of my best friends in technology came from this OpenStack community. And we always joke when we see each other at conferences, we're like, well, where do you work now? Because we never know where anybody works, because we all work in open source, and we all work on OpenStack, and it's a really tight community. It's a really awesome community. We work really hard for this community to keep a very diversified community, to protect the members of the community. There's, you've seen all the codes of conduct, and sorry, I probably broke like 4 of them today already, but in good fun on my Twitter feed. But in general, and I'm joking, of course, I'm super passionate about making sure that this is a very diversified and inclusive community, and it's something I speak a lot about, and I think is super important. And our community is largely online as well, so thinking about how to be inclusive to everybody and how to keep that diverse community where everybody feels welcome online is even more important, because people don't tend to think as much, or there's less accountability when it's online and you don't see the face of the person you're talking about, or the reaction people have to the comment you made without thinking, or maybe under the influence of too much sugar. So it's something to really think about, and it's something that we spend a lot of time in OpenStack addressing and talking about. And I think we've built an amazing community, and that's for sure my favorite part about it, the people. Some of the technology is pretty cool too. Yeah. Some of it.
Okay, now thank you for that.
Sure.
That was great insight. Okay, so now we're just going to quickly think about where to from here. Where's the starting page? Where's the landing point? So first, best ways to stay up to date is joining some of the mailing lists that OpenStack have, and following our social media channels, which you hear all the news, what events are coming up. So the community mailing list is where a user group newsletter goes out once a month, and then also on OpenStack on Twitter and Facebook has updates coming through all the time about local events, tutorials, super user articles, and the list goes on. Check out the user group portal. So that's where you'll find your local user group. Again, they're all over the world. And if you can't find one, there is a link on how you can start one, and then you can get in contact with me, and we can start chatting, and we can make something happen.
Has everybody here been to an OpenStack meetup? Is there anyone here who hasn't been to an OpenStack meetup? Okay, you haven't? What geographic are you in? Geography? Where are you from? That's, you know, it's funny, I asked this question in my other talk, and the only people that hadn't been to meetups were also from Australia. And so, is it because there isn't a meetup group in Melbourne? Oh, okay. Because going to meetups is really, it's important. It's important for OpenStack, no matter where you are, whether you're a beginner, whether you're advanced, you know, if you have a lot to say about OpenStack, volunteer to speak at one, share your knowledge with the community, share your love. But one of the ways that we keep this community so tight is meeting in person whenever we can. And so this is why I give my nights and weekends to doing our meetup twice a month, because there's a lot of content we want to get to people, but also we want to give people a chance to really stay together and commune. So sometimes meetups are really technical and they're about content. Sometimes meetups are more social and they're fun. Sometimes I'll do hands-on labs in the meetups. Our meetups in the last almost 2 years have been embracing a lot of the adjacent technologies. Kubernetes is a big one for me, so I've done 14 meetups on Kubernetes in the last year and a half. You know, so there's a lot of goodness that you can get out of the meetups, and if you're not going to a meetup and there's a reason you're not going, contact your local meetup user and leader, and you know, tell them what you want. Tell them what you want to get out of the meetup, and I promise you they will incorporate it in and somehow accommodate you, because I just really highly encourage you guys to start participating in your local user groups.
And then this page is a great resource. It sums up a lot of the stuff we talked about today, leads you to all the right links, including those project lists that we were looking at. It's a new community portal or contributor guide, and it covers all the different topics, so code and documentation, events, user groups, users, and sponsorship. And so if you're still unsure, you're not really sure what happened just now, or it's the afternoon blues, head down to the Foundation Lounge and come chat to me. I'm going to be there tomorrow from 9:45 till 10:20, and then also on Wednesday from 1:50 till 3:20. Or if you can't make it down, just send me an email at sonia@openstack.org. Okay, so we've got about 5 minutes for questions, because I know we all want to head down to the Marketplace Mixer. So have we got any questions in the audience? Yes.
So I know a bit about coding. I'm not that proficient, but I'm trying to learn. And I watched a OpenStack demo of a guy fixing something in Horizon a while ago. One about the OpenStack summits or whatever. But my question is, like, I'm trying to improve my coding. So what my question is, when somebody has a certain topology or something that you don't have the resources available to you, like if they've got, you know, thousands of switches and stuff, and I look around in my room, I can't see them. Like, how do I signal? Like, when you want to fix a bug, and they have a certain topology with, you know, one more router than you have or one more switch than you have or something like that, how do you simulate the topology to see your fix has actually fixed the problem, if that makes sense?
How do you bug fix? Is that kind of the gist of the question? With code you're writing and then you want to contribute it back?
So you've seen a bug and they've got this sort of set up in their work environment, but if you're sitting in your bedroom or your study at home and you're trying to fix it, obviously you don't have the hardware there to see if your fix will fix the bug.
Luckily, we have a lot of testing that happens in OpenStack, so someone will make sure that is. But what project are you trying to contribute to?
Like just like Neutron or something like that. So if there's a Neutron bug,
There's no bugs in Neutron. It's just.
So if there's something that you want to fix and you don't have access to those resources, what do you submit the fix and then it'll be tested? Somebody else will do the testing that has the environment, I guess. Or
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
Tom,
yeah.
do you want to?
Community helping our community. Here we go.
So I kind of point out two possible ways. Neither of them are great. There may be awesome network simulation stuff that I don't know about, but sometimes you see people submitting patches to the code review system because it immediately fires off all those test jobs, and it's a bit balancing. You kind of need to submit a patch and wait a little bit and see if it passes or fails and gets
not really supposed to do that.
But, yeah. Well, no, it's not a shared account. You have your own account that's open on the system. But that's something I saw for testing cells code, for example.
Yeah, you know,
It's really highly
people have emailed me and said, can you submit this patch or can you submit this bug because they don't have their own Garrett account? And we kind of frown upon that. We would really like people to have their own accounts and contribute. And I think because there's actually legal reasons that, and I think they're changing it. I don't know if they've changed it yet. But you know, we do want people to contribute that way. And I know that this is being recorded, so I'm going to try to paraphrase a little bit what you said. But basically submitting your patch into Garrett and hoping, you know, and waiting a little while. But it happens pretty quickly. There'll be people, and you can also ping someone, you know, somewhere on IRC and say, you know, look, I just did this, I need your help, especially if it's Neutron. That's a huge community, and there's a lot of people. If you're helping to bug fix Neutron, they're going to be like, you are our brother. So they will embrace that, and they'll work with you. And Neutron has always had strong PTLs, and you can always ping them as well.
If you also have any technical troubles, go to ask.openstack.org. That's also a great place to get answers to questions. Yep.
Yes, Tom.
To develop the OpenStack community more like outreach, Sonia, what's your opinion like on, you mentioned like there's this new university group that's being founded, like where should the OpenStack community go from here in order to get more, to enlarge in the community, right? Is it the university, is it the corporations, or what is it? And then what are some areas that we could do to extend the community into those groups?
It does depend, I guess, on the region and what's happening specifically in that region, whether it's a lot of corporations already on board or we don't have a lot of student awareness. I found being here in Australia, when I told people I'm interning with the foundation, they asked me what was OpenStack. That was the most common question I had. So that was my driving motivator to pursue that university track and go, let's get an event happening and see if we can increase student awareness about open source and OpenStack. So that was my main driver in that region. So I guess it does depend what's happening currently. But I think sometimes the best way is to have these events and having introductory stuff where people can feel they can walk in and have no knowledge at all and just learn something new, or at least meet someone who can help them along the way to learn something new.
I guess my question would have been, when you say community, are you talking about just developer community? Are you talking about, you know, companies that adopt OpenStack? You know, what part of OpenStack do you want to see grow?
Developers to start with, right?
Developers.
Yeah, I want to get more, you know, because I think if you get more developers, obviously then corporations will follow as well, possibly, I don't know, but
Most corporations I've talked to are looking for OpenStack. Every single meetup, someone comes up to me and they're like, do you know any OpenStack developers? I mean, everyone is looking for OpenStack developers. So if you need a job, learn Python, start coding, you know, just figure out how to be an OpenStack developer, and you apparently will have lots of work. Any other questions? I want to give Sonia another shout out because, as she mentioned, she's been interning. She's been a full-time student. So if someone's telling me they don't have time to contribute to open source, she's a great example of someone who's been burning the candle at both ends and probably in the middle, and just trying to, you know, contribute to this fabulous community while she's also in school full-time. So thank you so much for all that you've done for OpenStack.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Any last thoughts? It's your session.
I'll put it back to you. Thank you for everything you've done. Like always responding to emails on time, just like help, and you respond and all that, and yeah, just really appreciate everything you do, all the speaking engagements you have and running the user group and that sort of thing. So thank you, likewise.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for coming and wanting to get involved in the OpenStack community. Please do ping me or see me. If you see me in the hallway, just come say hi and we can chat. Okay, thank you.